So हामी यहाँ यस बिहानीको यो कक्षामा हामी तपाईहरु सबैलाई स्वागत गर्छौं. I would like to welcome all our online brother and sister, and as well as our who is participating this morning. And we would like to welcome you all. And I'd like to thank you, Brother Gladwin, who is our tutor and teacher. He is here now. So let's open in prayer. Brother Krishna, would you like to?
Okay.
Let's
go on. Our Father in heaven, thank you for this last year. Our teacher is present here. Give thanks for all this management you pass through the given and proper word use and understanding from the core of heart. And then after when we read the word of God, then radically change in our spiritual grow up, and we lead to other people who are unknown and who need more than us. Thank you, Father. Be with us. Holy Spirit, guide us. And during the class, be with us and present. Thanks for in Christ's name we pray.
Amen. Amen. All right, brother Kidu, would you like PowerPoint?
Yes, but are you going to put up the PowerPoint?
Okay, hold on. I have to go through. But what was the book last time?
Right.
What is the
finished Deuteronomy, sir?
Deuteronomy?
Finish that, sir.
Okay. What are we going to do today?
Today is Joshua, sir.
Joshua?
Yes, sir.
All right. So if we bringing any message, I mean 10-minute sermon. So brother Kidu,
anybody's going to preach?
Not today, because we haven't give them assignment.
Right. Well, let me ask some questions to get started.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let us look at each of the books of the Bible. Let's first of all look at Genesis. What does Genesis deal with? What is covered in the book of Genesis?
You asking to Enos Group, brother Enos Group?
Yes, sir.
Okay, brother.
Well, I don't want Enos to answer. I want everybody else.
Okay, all right, I got it. Brother Enos, in your group,
you can ask them.
You can ask everyone.
I want the other members of the class to say what the book of Genesis deals with.
Okay. Did you hear, brother Enos?
Yes, sir, I heard.
Okay. Ask. I don't know. Ask each and every member. Each and every member with you. What they understood about Genesis, book of Genesis. Yeah, go ahead.
On my Genesis, the book of Genesis teaches us about the creation of the universe and the mankind.
Yes.
Like how it was created, the universe and all, and about mankind.
Okay.
And the beginning, first God created Adam and Eve.
Yes.
And after that, the scenes, how the scenes get everything like that.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Anybody else? After creation, what else do you have? What's the next big event in Genesis after creation?
Dude. Okay. Go ahead. What was it?
Then there's a story about Noah and the flood. And
what about the fall of man?
Babylon.
What about the Garden of Eden?
The
Garden of Eden.
What about the Garden of Eden?
The fall of man.
What happened there? Something happened. Big incident. What happened?
In Garden of Eden, Satan speaks to Eve that she may eat that fruit and she will like God. and she heard the words of Satan or serpent, or we can say snake also. So she heard and she looked the fruit and she ate. Because
Okay.
of that, they were fallen from the grace of God and committed sins against God.
Okay. All right. What about Cain and Abel?
Okay, Cain and Abel. What is the between the Cain and Abel? Who was how? How was them? So Cain and Abel.
Yeah. Look at Genesis chapter 4.
Genesis chapter 4. He said, open your book, Genesis chapter 4.
So my wife want to say something.
Sure.
Okay, please. Come forward and speak up.
Please do. Please do.
Can I say Nepal?
Cain and Abel.
She want to say in Nepali language, sir.
Okay, you can translate her.
हामी त दाजुभाइ हुन्छ उहाँको अब काइनले चाहिँ अब हामीलाई साह्रै नै आरिस आरिस गरेर चाहिँ परमेश्वरको बेदी जुन चढाउँछ दाजुभाइले अलग अलग गरेर यता काइनले आफ्नो खेतीपातीबाट खेतीपातीबाट ल्याएर चढाउँदाखेरि राम्रो अब जुन अब राम्रो फल फलेको थियो त्यो चाहिँ ल्याएर चढाउँथ्यो यता अब हामीले पनि आफ्नो उबाट उब्रेको ल्याएर चाहिँ लास्टको ल्याएर चढाउनु गर्थ्यो अनि त्यस्तो गरेर ल्याउँदाखेरि चाहिँ अब वेदीमा चढाउँदाखेरि चाहिँ अब हाबिलको चाहिँ ग्रहण भयो काइनको चाहिँ अब
He's saying, Cain and Abel was brothers, and Cain was working in the field, and Abel was playing the sheepfold.
Mm-hmm.
And one day Cain brought the offering to God from his field, and Abel also brought the offering, the sacrifice to God from his sheepfold. And Abel's offering was accepted by God, but Cain's was rejected. Therefore, Cain was so jealous upon his brother, and he killed his own brother Abel.
Okay. All right. He killed his brother. All right. Okay. Genesis chapter 6 deals with what?
Yes.
Noah and the ark.
In Genesis chapter 6, we can find about Noah.
I'm ready.
When God see on the earth everyone was committing sins against God, but only the Noah was righteous in the sight of God.
Right. And he
So
found
God
grace in
decided-
the sight of God. So good. So Noah preached for many years, and he and 7 members of his family were saved. Let's look at Genesis chapter 12. What does Genesis chapter 12, the first 4 verses, deal with?
Wow.
Genesis chapter 12 is
Chapter 12.
about Abraham's calling. God called Abraham in Genesis chapter 12
Yeah.
from place of Ur.
Right. And what promise did he make to Abraham?
He made that he made there 7 promises that he will make his name great. I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and I will make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing, and I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curse thee. And in this shall all families of the earth be blessed.
Okay. All right. Now, God, so that promise meant that a descendant of Abraham would lead to Christ. Which son of Abraham would lead to Christ?
Isaac.
Isaac. And which son of Isaac would lead to Christ?
Jacob.
Jacob. And so the rest of the book of Genesis deals with the life of Abraham. From chapter 12 onwards, the life of Abraham, then the life of Isaac, and then the life of Jacob. And Genesis ends with one of the sons of Jacob, Joseph, being deputy leader in Egypt, and he bringing his family down to Egypt to save them from the great famine in Judea, and so in Palestine. And therefore, Genesis ends. Let's read the last 5 verses of Genesis.
Okay. Last 5 verses. Chapter 50.
Yeah.
Chapter 50, verse 1 to 5.
Last 5 verses, sir, from 22
Yeah.
onwards.
Chapter 50, verses 1 to 5.
1 to 5.
Read it.
Read.
Then Joseph fell on his father's face and wept over him and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. So the physicians embalmed Israel. 40 days were required for him, for such are the days required for those who are embalmed. And the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. And when the days of his mourning were past, Joseph spoke to the household of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found favor in your eyes, please speak in the hearing of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, Behold, I am dying in my grave, which I dug myself in the land of Canaan. There you shall bury me. Now therefore, please let me go up and bury my father, and I will come back. Continue.
Continue.
And Pharaoh said, Go up and bury your father as he made you swear. So Joseph
All right. Okay.
went
Let's
up,
read verse 24 to 26.
and Joseph said to his brethren, I am dying, but God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land to the land of which he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Then Joseph took an oath from the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here. So Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt.
Okay, fine. All right. So the book of Genesis ends with the death of Joseph and his family in Egypt. Okay. What is Exodus all about?
Israel's suffering in Egypt.
About what?
In Exodus chapter 1, we can find about the Israelites were multiplied on Egypt, and the Egyptian was trying to punish them or make them in control. And
Yeah, to enslave them, try to enslave them. Now, the important thing to remember about Exodus is that the events in Exodus begin 400 years after the events of Genesis ends. And so, although the book of Exodus is right beside the book of Genesis, there is a gap in history in that when Joseph dies and he's put in a coffin, and then we read, no, there were other names of the children of Israel who came to Egypt, each man, blah, 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 and the enslavement of the Israelites, it's 400 years after. Okay? So in Exodus, we see the enslavement of the children of Israel, or the children of Jacob. What else do we see in Exodus?
in Exodus chapter 2, we can say about the birth of Moses.
Right. What else? What else?
In chapter 3, God called Moses.
Right. What else?
And then in chapter 4 and 5, he went to Egypt to visit their brothers and brought them from slavery.
Okay. All right. All right. So right up to chapter 12,
There was 10
we read
club.
of the setting the children of Israel free, right?
Yes.
Right. In fact, in chapter 12, we see the Passover supper being enacted. Look at verse 51 of chapter 12. Verse 51 of chapter 12. Verse 51 of chapter 12.
So it came to pass on that very same day that the Lord brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt according to their armies.
Read. And came to pass on that very day the Lord brought the children out of the land of Egypt according to their armies. All right. So they came out of Egypt. All right. And then they go to Mount Sinai. And in Exodus chapter 20, what happens?
God gave them 10 commandments.
Right. Give the 10 commandments. All right. And then they wander in the wilderness. Okay. What is the book of Leviticus all about?
Leviticus all about
No, I want
sacrifices.
somebody else to answer. You're answering too many questions. Somebody else. Leviticus. Anybody else? What is Leviticus all about?
No, about offering and satisfaction. Satisfies.
You sacrifice. Yeah. Well, it's basically Leviticus is all about how to please God in worship and in living. How to please God in your sacrifices and to please God in your living. So Leviticus is not just about worship. It's also about sacrifice. Give me an example of how Leviticus is about worship. Somebody show me a passage that shows Leviticus is also about sacrifice or worship. Find a passage.
Leviticus chapter 16, the Day of Atonement. Uh,
Leviticus where?
chapter 16, the Day of Atonement.
Leviticus chapter what? Chapter 6?
16.
Okay, read.
The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron who were killed when they offered unholy fire to the Lord. He said, tell your brother Aaron that only at the proper time is he to go behind the curtain into the most holy place, because that is where I appear in the cloud above the lid on the commandment box. If he disobeys, he will be killed. He may enter the most holy place only after he has brought a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. Then the Lord gave the following instructions. Before Aaron goes into the most holy place, he must have a bath and put on the priestly garments, the linen robe and shorts, the belt and the turban. The community of Israel shall give Aaron two male goats for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He shall offer a bull as a sacrifice to take away his own sins and those of his family. Then he shall take the two goats to the entrance of the tent of the Lord's presence. There he shall draw lots using two stones, one marked for the Lord and the other for Azazel. Aaron
Okay,
shall
so that's about
sacrifice.
worship. Okay, let's see. That's good. Tell me a passage that talks about living to please God. a passage that talks about living and not worship. Living to please God.
Leviticus chapter 19, sir.
Chapter what?
Chapter 19.
Okay, go ahead.
And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to all the congregation of the children of Israel, and said to them, you shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, I am holy. Every one of you shall reward his mother and his father. Keep my Sabbath. I am the Lord your God.
Right. And he said, do not turn to idols, nor make yourselves more than gods. I am the Lord your God. Right? Look at verse 13. Look at verse 13.
You shall not
11, 12, and 13. 11, 12, and 13.
you shall not steal, nor deal falsely, nor lie to one another, and you shall not swear by my name falsely, nor shall you profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. You shall not defraud your neighbor, nor rob him. The wage of him who is hid shall not remain with you all night until morning.
Right. You shall not curse the deaf. Verse 14.
You shall not curse the deaf, nor put a stumbling block before the blind, but shall fear your God. I am the Lord.
Right. Okay, fine. All right. Leviticus. Numbers. Numbers deals with the history of the children of Israel as they wander in the wilderness. Deuteronomy is the repeat of the law given to those who survived the wandering in the wilderness. It was given as the children of Israel were about to enter the promised land. And then Joshua, the book of Joshua. That's where we're going to start now, the book of Joshua.
The book of Joshua start from death of Moses, and God told to Joshua to lead these people from Jordan.
All right. Joshua is the person who took over from the children of Israel, took over as the children of Israel were entering the promised land. He's the one who took over. Okay. And Judges, what is Judges all about? That's where we are supposed to be now, Judges.
The Lord God give judges to judge the people, those who are committing sin. Uh,
Judges. And then after, so Judges is 300 years period when God used judges to set the people free and to be in charge of them. All right. And after Judges, we have what?
First Samuel.
Ruth. We have the book of Ruth. Okay, let's now look at the book of Ruth. Go down to the book of Ruth. We're going to go right down now to the book of Ruth. PowerPoint.
Do you want PowerPoint now?
Ruth.
What is the book of Ruth?
Yes, sir. That's where we're going to start.
All right.
Go ahead.
Just a second. Let me upload. Good. Got it. you see this? Everybody can see this? The page?
No, no, sir. We didn't see, sir.
You can't see?
No, we can't.
How about
All right, somebody read the PowerPoint, please.
now? Can you see it?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Somebody read it from the PowerPoint.
Go ahead.
The book of Ruth. The events in Ruth takes place in the same period as that of the Judges. Ruth is a sort of extension to the book of Judges. Ruth was named after a Moabite woman. It given an account of the life of David's great grandmother. It takes place in the earliest part of period in which the judges operated.
Right. So during the 300-year period of the judges, Ruth lived. The Bible says in verse 1, Ruth chapter 1, verse 1, now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled. So Ruth takes place in the period of the judges. Okay, somebody else. Next slide. The book, somebody else.
What was that?
Someone else read the slide. God, the book providentially.
So somebody read this one?
The PowerPoint, yes.
PowerPoint, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Go ahead, read it. Can you see
The
it?
book. Yes, uncle.
Yes.
The book. God providentially led Ruth to Israel to become a foreparent of David and Jesus Christ. Ruth was a Moabite woman.
Go
More
ahead.
on more on Ruth. Ruth tells a beautiful story of Moabite woman's devotion, love, and faithfulness in the midst of turbulent period of the judges, a period of sin, social chaos, unfaithfulness,
Social
disobedience,
chaos. Chaos. Social chaos.
social chaos, social chaos, unfaithfulness, disobedience, operations, deliverance, and apostasy.
Read on.
The next slide. Details of the story. A Hebrew family migrated to Moab to escape a famine in Israel. Chapter 1, chapter 1, verses 1 to 5. Tragedy struck, which left Naomi, the mother-in-law, and the Moabite daughters-in-law widowed. Chapter 1, verses 6 to 14. Naomi decided to return home and Ruth, no, one of the daughters-in-law, went with her. Chapter 1, verses 15 to 22. Ruth met an Israelite man, Boaz. Chapter 2, verses 1 to 23. He loved her and wanted to he loved her and wanted to and ended up marrying her. Chapter 3, verses 1 to 18, chapter 4, verses 1 to 12, and chapter 4, verses 1 to 13. Hence, Ruth and Boaz became part of the line of the David and ultimately Jesus Christ. Date of writing. Ruth written about 1000 BC. Note, David was king in 1010 BC, 970 BC, 970 BC, 1010 BC to 970 BC. Outline to Ruth. The story of Ruth, chapter 1, verses 1, and chapter 4, verses 22. Conclusion. With the conclusion of the
All right, continue.
conclusion, with the conclusion
Okay,
of the period of
yeah, go ahead.
with
Huh?
the conclusion.
Did you say something, Brother
No, no,
Kulu?
continue.
Okay, finish first. Let's conclusion.
Conclusion. With the conclusion of the period of the judges, which coincides with the period of covered by the story of Ruth, children of Israel enter the period of the monarchy. But first, we look at the last judge Samuel.
Okay, let's look at the turn back to the slide that deals with the details of the story.
What slide?
The PowerPoint that deals with the details of the story.
Yeah.
Okay, someone read Ruth chapter 1, verse 1 to 5. A Hebrew family migrated to Moab to escape a famine in Israel. Someone read that.
Somebody read it. Book from the Ruth. You want from the Ruth, book of Ruth, chapter 1 to
Verse
1.
1 to 5.
Huh?
Yes.
Or chapter 1, 6 to 14.
1 to 5.
Okay.
Long ago, in the day before Israel had a king, there was a famine in the land. So a man named Elimelech, who belongs to the clan of Ibrad, and who lives in Bethlehem in Judah, went with his wife Naomi and their two sons, Malon and Chilon, to live for a while in the country of Moab. While they were living there, Elimelech died, and Naomi was left alone with her two sons, who married Moabite girl, Oprah and the Ruth. About 10 years later, Malon and Chilon also died, and Naomi was left all alone, without husband or son.
Right. Okay, so that's the situation. All the women lost their husbands. Right?
Uh-huh.
Chapter 1, verse 6.
Chapter 1, verse 6 to 14. Go ahead.
6 to 14.
Sometime later, Naomi heard that the Lord. Sometime later, Sometime later, Naomi heard that the Lord had blessed his people by giving them a good harvest. So he got ready to leave Moab with her daughters-in-law.
You're not connected.
Shall I continue?
All right. Read on.
They started out together to go back to Judah. But on the way, she said to them, "Go back home and stay with your mothers. May the Lord be as good to you as you have been to me, and to those who have died. And may the Lord make it possible for each of you to marry again and have a home."
All right. Okay.
So
So
now,
he told them to go. But Ruth did not want to go. Read verse 16.
Verse 16.
Yes.
Read verse 16.
but Ruth answered, "Don't ask me to leave you. Let me go with you. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God.
Right.
Wherever
So
you
she refused to go. Okay, stop there. So she refused to go. And so Naomi decided to return home, and Ruth, one of her daughters-in-law, went with her. Okay, let's look at chapter 2 now. Ruth is in Bethlehem. Chapter 2, verse 1.
Naomi had a relative named Boaz, a rich and influential man who belonged to the family of her husband Elimelech. One day, Ruth said to Naomi, "Let me go to the field to gather the corn that the harvest workers leave. I'm sure to find someone who will let me work with him." Naomi answered, "Go ahead, my daughter." So Ruth went out to the fields and walked behind the workers, picking up the corn which they left. It so happened that she was in the field that belonged to Boaz. Sometime later, Boaz himself arrived from Bethlehem and greeted the workers. "The Lord be with you," he said. "The Lord bless you," they answered. Boaz asked the man in charge, "Who is that young woman?" The man answered, She is the foreign girl who came back from Moab with Naomi. She asked me to let her follow the workers and pick up the corn. She has been working since early morning and has just now stopped to rest for a while under the shelter. Then Boaz said to Ruth, let me give you some advice. Don't pick up corn anywhere except in this land. Work with the women here. Watch them to see where they are reaping and stay with them. I have ordered my men not to molest you. And whenever you are thirsty, go and drink from the water jars that they have filled. Ruth bowed down with her face touching the ground and said to Boaz, why should you why should you be so concerned about me? Why should you be so kind to a foreigner? Boaz answered, I have heard about everything that you have done for your mother-in-law since your husband died. I know how you left your father and mother and your own country and how you came to live among a people you had never known before. May the Lord reward you for what you have done. May you have a full reward from the Lord God of Israel, to
Right.
whom
And
you
so, and so
have.
said, so done. In the end, Ruth and Boaz got married. Let's look at chapter 4 and verse 13. And then we're going to stop. Read chapter 4, verse 13 to the end.
Boaz and his descendants. Boaz took Ruth home. The Boaz took Ruth home as his wife. The Lord blessed her, and she became pregnant and had a son. The woman said to Naomi, praise the Lord. He has given you a grandson today to take care of you. May the boy become famous in Israel. Your daughter-in-law loves you and has done more for you than 7 sons. And now she has given you a grandson who will bring new life to you and give you security in your old age. Naomi took the child, held him close, and took care of him. The women of the neighborhood named the boy Obed. They told everyone, a son has been born to Naomi. Obed became the father of Jesse, who was the father of David. Uh, from 18 to 22, this is the family line from Perez to David. Perez, Hezron, Ram, Aminadab, Nason, Salmon, Baoz, Obed, Jesse, and David.
All right. Okay. So in the end, Ruth, who was a Moabite, and a Moabite is a descendant of Lot and his two daughters and his daughters. Lot had illegally had sexual intercourse with his two daughters when he was drunk, and they produced a son called Moab and another son called Ammon. So it was Ruth is a descendant of that son Moab. But God still valued her because she valued God. So it shows you if you're willing to serve God, God is able to use you. And so Ruth is in the lineage of Jesus Christ. And Ruth produced a son called Obed, who produced a son called Jesse, who produced a son called David, David the king. And so this is a wonderful story of the providence of God, how God can use a bad situation of the family of Naomi having to flee into Moab to escape the famine. And God used that bad situation and created a situation where they met Ruth, and Ruth finally becomes in the line that produces Jesus Christ. So when God said to Abraham, through your seed, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, we see in the book of Ruth how God continued to keep that promise. Because it's through the relationship of Naomi and Ruth that a descendant, a forefather of Jesus Christ was born, Obed. So let's look finally at Matthew chapter 1. In Matthew chapter 1,
Chapter 1, all the generation.
verse 1.
Okay. Read it, Matthew chapter 1, verse 1.
1 to 5.
1 to 5.
This is the list of ancestors of Jesus Christ. a descendant of David, who was a descendant of Abraham. From the
Continue.
from Abraham from Abraham to King David, the following ancestors are listed: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah, and his brothers. Then Perez and Zerah. Their mother was Tamar, Hezron, Ram, Aminadab, Nason, Salmon, Baoz. His mother was Rahab. Obed, his mother was Ruth, Jesse, and King David. From David to the time when the people of Israel were taken into the exile in Babylon. The
All
following
right. Okay,
ancestors.
stop it up there. So it says here in verse 4, Ram begot Aminadab, Abinadab begot Nashon, Nashon begot Salmon, Salmon begot Boaz by Rahab, Boaz begot Obed by Ruth, and Obed begot Jesse. So that child that was born to Boaz and Ruth, Obed, he became the father of Jesse, who was the father of King David. So God used them to keep his promise. And then it says in verse 16, what does verse 16 say?
Verse 16 again. Is that a verse 16? Verse 16.
16. What does verse 16 say?
And Jacob begot Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ.
Right. So when it says the book of verse 1, the book of genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham, it is through Ruth that you get the son of David and then finally Jesus Christ. Okay, we continue next week.
All right. So anybody need? I mean, you want give them for preparation for sermon?
Like a sermon on the book of Ruth.
Book of Ruth. Okay, Brother Enos.
Yes, sir.
Could you give young man to make a sermon? I mean, to prepare sermon
On Ruth.
from Book of Ruth.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, give this young man both. Anybody whoever wants to.
For next, everybody must prepare a sermon on Ruth. Everybody.
Yeah, because they might not have enough time, but still be.
Yes.
I want to hear from Robbie and Isaac mostly.
Uncle.
Unja, Book of Ruth, brother. From the Book of Ruth.
Yes, sir.
All
Okay.
right. Thank you very much. Brother Enos, could you lead us pray?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Shall we pray now? Holy and
Okay.
righteous Father, we thank you very much for this beautiful time. God, we thank you very much for the wonderful teaching from our glad Mr. Father. Indeed, God, Father, you are the God who provides everything, Father. You are the God who turns even our bad days into good days, Father. Thank you very much, Father, for helping us and guiding us, Father. God, in this time we pray unto you to bless upon this class, Father. Let many people will come to know about you, God, through this class and glorify you, God. God, let many people come now that you have provided your Son, Lord Jesus Christ, to die for their sins. God, we pray unto you. Bless upon all the people, God. Let the light of your gospel be shining in the heart of the people, God, that they may come to know about you. Believe into your Son, Jesus Christ, God. God, Holy Father, this time we pray unto you. Bless upon this online Bible class, Father. God, bless upon our Deb sir also and his family, God. God, as they are proceeding these classes, Father, help them to grow more and more, Father, that they may be able to spread your word throughout the world, Father, through this means, Father. Thank you very much, Father. Those whoever are hearing this class, Father, bless upon each and every one of them, Father. Thank you very much once again for hearing our prayers, Father. We are assembling your priesthood, giving all the praise, glory, and honor, and asking this prayer in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. God bless.
God bless you, brother. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
All right.
All right. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. Thank you for joining with us. Thank you.